It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. I try to read and respond to as many as I can. We read some of them on the air. randykabc@gmail.com. It is Friday. It is the kickoff to the weekend. It's going to be a gorgeous weekend in Southern California. Might be a little windy, but it's not going to be too hot. It's not going to be too cool. And on Fridays on the News Blitz, we do happy hour. Monday through Thursday, we talk about all the local news, all the local politics. But on Fridays, it's time to get into the good life. We're talking food, we're talking restaurants, we're talking drinks, we're talking travel, adventure, enjoying yourselves, because there is way more to life than the stuff that makes you want to rip your hair out. So today, I want to focus on something that really makes me happy every time I eat it, every time I make it. I love Italian food. Specifically, I love pasta. Now, we have already done a whole show on pizza months ago, and it was a great one, and we'll definitely do it again. But today, let's celebrate the other greatness that is of Italian cuisine, pasta. Pasta is so versatile. There are so many different things you can do with pasta. Pasta sauces are great for make-ahead meals. I mean, I'll tell you some of the things that I do. I got to tell you, though, even though I have a lot of recipes that I rotate at the house for pasta, off the top of my head, I can't tell you a restaurant that I would recommend for pasta. I used to have one, but it closed during the pandemic, and that was Ciao Christina in Burbank, near the Warner Brothers lot. That place was incredible. That place had some of the best eggplant parm that I've ever had in my life, and some unbelievable mushroom lasagna. Ooh, it was so good. So this is where I need you to help me. I'm going to tell you some of my favorite pasta recipes, how I make them at home. But if I was going to go out anywhere in Southern California, who makes some really good pasta? Where do I go? Whether it's a pesto or a bolognese or a spaghetti, or tell me where I can get some really good pasta in Southern California. Your favorite places to get pasta in Southern California. And on top of that, if you happen to make pasta at home, tell me your favorite recipes. Tell me your favorite pastas to make, and let's give some love to the noodles. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Now, why am I thinking about pasta? Well, over the weekend, I made a real winner. I love a good bolognese. I don't think I even knew what a bolognese was until a few years ago. I just thought it was like a spaghetti marinara with a funnier name. No. See, I'm a very zero-waste person in my kitchen. I really try to make sure that anything that is in my fridge, especially in the vegetable section, doesn't get wasted, gets used in some form before I have to throw it out. So every once in a while, maybe once every couple of months, maybe every quarter, I'll look in the fridge the day before grocery day, which is Sunday for me, and I'll see, well, I've got a lot of carrots and I've got a lot of celery. And usually this can lead me down to a few different paths. Carrots and celery, I could do something Cajun, like a jambalaya, done that many times, even a gumbo. Although that's really not carrots. No, that would just be for the celery, because the Cajun mirepoix is bell pepper and celery and onion. So no, it's not something Cajun. There is this black bean soup recipe that I do that actually uses an immersion blender, so you sneak in some vegetables with carrots and celery. But no, the best way to use up carrots and celery outside of like a soup or a mirepoix is in a bolognese sauce. So the bolognese recipe that I've been using for 5 or 6 years now, it's fairly simple, and the thing with the pasta sauce is once you get the main things going, you're just letting it simmer, letting it get better and better and better. Now, a bolognese sauce is a meat sauce, and I usually like to do 2 different meats. So traditionally, you would use a ground beef, but I also like to use a ground Italian sausage. But you could also do a sausage and turkey. You could do all beef if you want. You can play around with it. You could do chicken. It doesn't matter. Take 2 different ground meats, or at least 2 pounds of ground meat, and before you even put that in the pot, you're going to get as finely chopped as you can carrots, celery, and onion. I go pretty equal in all of it. But here's my trick, because I'm not the best at motor skills, and sometimes I don't have the patience to be finely chopping carrots and celery and onion. That's what the food processor's for. It needs to get as small as possible anyway, because you almost want it to disintegrate into the sauce. And I'll use the blender, or I'll use the food processor to get everything really small. Then I take my Le Creuset Dutch oven, which I love. It's big enough for all of my big dishes, whether it's soups or it's braises or it's pasta sauces. And I will, on a medium-high heat with a high-heat oil, anytime you're on the stovetop, this is the number one mistake people can make with cooking, and I did it forever and ever because I didn't know any better. It matters what kind of oil you're using. Also, I don't mess around with nonstick cooking. I don't mess around with nonstick pans. Everything in my house is either cast iron or stainless steel or enameled cast iron. That's what the Le Creuset is. But make sure you have a high heat oil, because if the pan starts getting hot, especially if you're sauteing for a very long time, you don't want that oil to start smoking. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a mess. So extra virgin olive oil is great for salads. It is great for dressings. Extra virgin olive oil is not meant for high heat cooking. Now, there are olive oils that are meant for that, and they're usually found at the grocery store, and they'll say extra light tasting, or they'll even say cooking olive oil. But my favorite lately, because usually you could find it very affordable, including at Trader Joe's for like $4 a bottle, I really love avocado oil. Avocado oil doesn't taste like anything. It's one of the healthier oils you can put in things, and it has a very high smoke point. So I get my pan heated with my avocado oil, and for about 15 minutes, you're just sauteing the vegetables, getting them as soft as possible. In the meantime, I'm opening up my packages of meat. If I've got my sausage links, I'm cutting them open because I don't need the casing for those. I just need the ground meat that's in there. And I'm also getting all my tomato stuff ready. I got to tell you, one time I royally screwed up a bolognese in that I was getting way too into the fact that, it uses so many carrots and celery, and that's going to be so healthy, that I did not even out the ratio of carrot, celery, and onion to tomato. And let's just say it was very orange, and my wife said this was not good. But you know what? It's okay. You're going to make mistakes cooking. It happens to me all the time. So after I'm sauteing all my vegetables for 15 minutes, usually I'll go for like 3 different kinds of tomatoes so it all gets some love. So maybe it's a can of crushed tomatoes, but also tomato sauce, but also Italian tomato paste. Tomato cubed. That way it definitely will still taste like what it's supposed to. So after I'm sauteing my vegetables for about 15 minutes, that's when I start throwing in the ground meat. I find that once you're mixing around the ground meat with the vegetables, it's really easy to break it up into tiny pieces, just stirring it over and over again, taking the end of a spatula to break it up. And then once everything starts to brown, that's when you're going to start with tomato paste. And the trick that I learned with tomato paste is if the pan isn't too watery yet, you can kind of put some paste in the center and let it cook for just a little bit, let it caramelize, and then start mixing everything together where that paste is now brushing every part of the dish. So everything looks like it's got a little red on it. And it's at that point that I'm going to deglaze. Now, if you happen to be a wine drinker, and I always am opening a nice Italian wine, just a little splash. It's not like a puttanesca sauce, which we'll talk about, but it is so simple to just pour a little splash of a nice Italian red, whether it's a Sangiovese blend. We'll get into some of my favorite Italian wines later in the hour. Just so all the brown stuff gets used up, everything gets mixed together. Then you can pour in your crushed tomatoes, your tomato sauce, and make sure everything looks evened out. Then you go for a little seasonings. And I go pretty simple: salt, pepper, oregano, and crushed red pepper flakes. Gotta have crushed red pepper flakes because I like a little heat to my bolognese sauces. Now, I also have, for the very end of the cook, I usually will take, if I've got any leftover basil, maybe parsley, but mostly basil, I chop that up very finely, but I don't put fresh herbs into stews or pasta sauces until the very end. The thing that I like to do is put them in as I turn off the heat because you don't want that flavor going away. That's what the dried herbs are for. So at that point, you're just letting that simmer. Simmer as long as you want. You know, if you can go 20 minutes and you're in a rush, that's fine. If you can go up to an hour, that's great. You know, if it looks like it's getting a little too thick, you can always add a little more broth or a little more tomato sauce and just let that go. Because what you're looking for with a bolognese sauce is that you want everything to break up into the tiniest pieces. So all those little pieces of carrot, celery, onion, and all the ground meat. And so it really is that kind of meat sauce that you remember, that you love. And at the same time, now it's time to talk about, of course, the pasta in the pasta dish. We've only been working on the sauce. Now, depending on what kind of diet we're on, sometimes I'll go as healthy as you can, and that'll usually be spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles, which I think are fine substitutes if you're not doing pasta. And for a long time, when we first got off of gluten, that's what we would do. Spaghetti squash, if you've never had it, it's so easy to make, and it's pretty darn delicious. You just cut one in half lengthwise. You scoop out some of the seeds in the middle like you would do for any squash, and then you poke some holes in the skin with a fork, and salt, pepper, oil, put it on a sheet pan with parchment paper, and bake it for like 35 minutes at 350. And then use a fork to scrape out the insides, and the insides of the squash turn into spaghetti strands. It's really easy, and anybody could do it. And it is a great, healthy substitute if you don't feel like going for regular pasta. On the other hand, if you have a spiralizer, it's also very easy to do that with zucchini, and we used to do zucchini noodles all the time. The thing with zucchini noodles is there's a lot of water in there, so what I sometimes like to do is I'll put the noodles after I've spiralized them into a strainer, and then I'll take a little paper towel and salt them and try to squeeze out as much moisture as you can, because these aren't noodles you're going to be cooking, but that works really well. And we'll do zucchini noodles for some other pasta dishes we'll talk about later in the show as well. But I got to tell you, the world of gluten-free pasta has evolved so much in the last 10 years. It used to be that there were gluten-free pastas, but they didn't taste very good at all. And then I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, you started to see people coming out with combinations of corn and rice pastas, and those were pretty darn good. But they could be pretty heavy because it's a lot of grain. It's corn and rice. I am hooked right now on chickpea pasta. There's this brand Banza. I love them because not only does it taste exactly like pasta and it's very easy to cook, but it's just made of chickpeas, which means it is packed with protein. So I like that these days even more than I like the spaghetti squash, but we'll alternate. We'll go back and forth. Now, we've got the pasta cooked. We were simmering our pasta sauce. One thing that I like to do at the end is you've got to have a little cheese, right? So little Parmesan, and I'll throw a lot of that in, mostly to garnish at the end, but I'll throw some in near the end of the cook as well, just, you know, shaving it. If you got a microplane, it's great for that. One thing that my wife taught me, if you happen to have like an old rind that's not rotten yet, but a rind from a Parmesan cheese, just throw that in the sauce and let it kind of just sit around and simmer, and that works out really well. But once we get to the end of the cook, you want to throw in a little cheese, throw in a little bit of cream if you don't mind it. If you're a little averse to dairy, you don't have to do that. And if you don't do dairy at all, you don't need to do the Parmesan either. If you want that funk, there's nutritional yeast that you can buy. It's this weird yellow powder. I didn't know what it was, but it definitely will give you that cheesy funk that you're missing if you happen to be off dairy. And at this point, I turn off the heat. I throw in any fresh herbs, whether it's basil, maybe it's a little parsley. It's mostly basil. And then a trick that I learned, and I actually learned this from making chili, is when you've been simmering tomatoes for a really long time, sometimes they can lose some of that spark, some of that flavor. So I put in just a little bit, a splash of balsamic vinegar. and I mix that around with everything. It kind of reactivates the tomatoes. I do it in chili, and it's incredible. And of course, it also works for pasta sauces. And then you've got your perfect broken up bolognese sauce. We did this the other night. You can see the picture actually at Randy Wang Radio on Instagram. That's Randy Wang Radio. And it was so good. And of course, the thing with pasta sauces is you're going to have so much left over. So much. So not only did I go back for seconds that night, and we did it with spaghetti this time, but I've done it over penne, we've done it over spaghetti squash, but I do like it over spaghetti because it is a meat sauce, and it's real comforting to me. And what did we pair with that? I like Italian wine. It doesn't have to be made in Italy, but I like those Sangiovese grapes. And if you happen to be at Total Wine, they got really good Sangioveses or, Brunellos, and they're not that expensive. Ranieri makes some really good ones. But we're members at Foxen up in the Santa Ynez Valley, and Foxen is the best. Not only do they have great Pinot Noir, but the Foxen Shack has our favorite Sangiovese blend. It is mostly Sangiovese with a little cab, and it's called the Guillermo Grosso, and it's really, really great. The price point is good. I think we get them for like $35. There's also this guy, Marco Lucchesi at Section Wines in Buellton. He has one of the best Sangioveses I've ever had. He's from Tuscany, and he moved to California to start taking his Italian influences on California grapes, and it's just a winner all around. It is such a good meal. So that's what I made this weekend. And it got me thinking about how much I love all my other pasta sauces. But if I wanted to go out for pasta, I don't have anywhere I can recommend to you because I don't know. I have not been to an Italian restaurant that specializes in pasta in Los Angeles that I can think of, that I can be like, oh, you got to go here. That's where you come in. If you've got a place you love for pasta in Southern California, tell me all about it. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Who makes the best pasta in Southern California? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Not only that, if you happen to cook it at home, tell me your favorite pastas to make. I'd love to share some recipes. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's happy hour. It's the News Blitz. It's Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's Happy Hour Friday, and we're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I am a lover of pasta and Italian food, but I don't know any good Italian restaurants to recommend to you. Any great places to get pasta, that's where you come in. If you've got places in Southern California you want to recommend to get some fantastic pasta, tell me right now. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Kim in L.A. Kim, hello.
Hi, how are you? So there are two places.
I'm great.
One is in Culver City. It's called Pasta Sisters. It's kind of quick and easy, but really reliable, delicious pasta and dedicated to pasta. The second one is Factory Kitchen, which is located in downtown LA. And it's a unique, it's an Italian restaurant, but everything is very unique there. I believe the chef is from Liguria, which is on the coast of Italy. And I've just never had pastas and in sauces like this. You've got this gorgeous handkerchief pasta. I think it's called a mandili di seta. And it's got this pesto that's made with almonds, but you would never know that it doesn't have the pinoles or the pine nuts. It's gorgeous and velvety, and it's a real treat. So those would be two great places for pasta.
I'm looking at the pictures right now for Pasta Sisters in Culver City and the Factory Kitchen, which they have a downtown LA location and one in Vegas. That pasta looks mouth-watering. It looks so good.
It's gorgeous. Treat yourself.
I think I'm going to have to. Thank you so much for the recommendations, Kim. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you want to follow those two on Instagram, you've got Pasta_Sisters for Pasta Sisters in Culver City. Their stuff looks really good. I happen to work in Culver City, so I'm going to have to make a trip out there. Oh my, the pictures. They look so pretty. And then the Factory Kitchen _DTLA is where you find out about the Factory Kitchen. Looks like they've won a ton of awards. I got to get my butt down to downtown LA and check out the Factory Kitchen. That's all we're doing here. Suggestions for Italian restaurants with great pasta. I want to add to this list. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Read your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. It is Friday. It is happy hour. Today we're talking pasta. I'm sharing some of my favorite pasta recipes, but I really don't have that many pasta restaurants that I can recommend. That's where you come in. If you've got one you want to tell me all about, great places to get pasta in Southern California, I want to hear it. Let's go to Lisa in Torrance. Lisa, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are on the air.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to recommend our favorite little spot down here in Torrance. It's called Gitano's. It's a great family that's owned the restaurant, passed it down to their kids. They've got great homemade noodles. They've got great lasagna, seafood pastas, ravioli, butternut squash ravioli is just like our family favorite. It's just a great little place. You should check it out if you're ever down in Torrance.
Butternut squash ravioli, that sounds like magic.
It's really good. All of our kids, just like that's all they ever get. And they're like in their 30s. Yeah, no, it's great. It's a really great
I can imagine.
And they even
making
do
my mouth water just talking about it.
And they have a great bar. And I'll give a plug to Stephanie, who's a great bartender, and you can eat at the bar. And she's a great person that works there. And yeah, it's great.
I love it. Well, next time I'm in the South Bay, I got to check out Gaetano's. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Lisa. Have a great weekend. Gaetanos restaurant on Instagram. The pasta looks amazing. Butternut squash ravioli. Are you kidding me? My wife found this recipe the other day, and we did it. And it's the easiest thing in the world. But it is butternut squash feta pasta. So all you do is you take a baking dish, and you put in a bunch of cubed butternut squash seasoned with like salt, pepper, and then you put in a whole brick of feta, bake it till, for a good half hour, and then really blast up the heat a little longer to get kind of a brown color on that feta, and mix in some sage and just put that in with pasta. You create this really creamy, delicious sauce. You take a little bit of the pasta water that you make to mix it. It was so good, and it was so easy, and it was so fall. I love it. Let's go to Marissa in Burbank. Marissa, hello.
Hi, let me get my speaker on my phone. Just a second here. I'm sorry.
All good.
I want to recommend two places. One is Casa Bianca Pizza Pie. Can you hear me?
I can. You're on the air.
Okay. Casa Bianca Pizza Pie on Colorado. And it's in Eagle Rock, and it was opened by the parents, and now the children are managing it. Everything there is authentic Italian food. The parents came from Italy. They're Calabrese from Calabria, and they have everything there is. I took my mom there, and she had their minestrone soup, and she made a comment that it tastes. I'm Italian. It tastes just like her Italian soup that she makes. And then there's, and they have excellent desserts and cappuccinos. And then there's Angelino's on Moore Park and Lancashire Boulevard. And he makes all his pasta there in the restaurant, and it's delicious. And they make a stuffed truffle mushroom in Alfredo sauce. Oh my God, it's so good. They're both excellent recipes. And my recipe at home is virgin olive oil in a pan with garlic, heated up, don't brown the garlic. And then when the oil is warm enough, you add your tomatoes. You just blanch the tomatoes a little bit, and then you add basil, and you pour it over your capellina pasta, and it's delicious. Very easy. You don't have to cook it for hours. It's very tasty. I got that restaurant from I got the recipe from a restaurant in Italy when I was there.
It sounds so simple, but so perfect. Oh, I've got to try that one. And Angelino Trattoria in the Toluca Lake area. And,
Yes.
of course, Casa Bianca and Eagle Rock. Those are great suggestions. Marissa, thanks so much for calling.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love it. Oh, that sounds so good. I want truffle mushroom. I want truffle anything. I love me some truffle. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Carissa in Huntington Beach. Carissa, hello.
Hi, I want to recommend a place in Newport Beach called Mama D's. It's right on Newport Boulevard. They have the best pink sauce ever. It is so good, regardless of what pasta you put over it. They do have pizza too. They also have really good Italian wines to go with your pasta, and this is like a cool little. I don't imagine it's Italian. I don't know, but one of the really good things to look forward to at the end of your meal is they serve you these little warm chocolate chip cookies. That is, just gives you a little bit of a bite of sweet, which is perfect after the pink sauce. I highly recommend Mama D's.
Mama D's _ Newport Beach is their Instagram. I'm looking at a picture right now, Carissa, of that pink sauce. It looks so good with the sausage and the chicken. That looks delicious.
It is the best. I really, really enjoy that place. And it's really super busy. So if you ever want to go there, even on a weeknight, you plan on waiting. I don't think they take reservations, but it's worth the wait.
It sure looks like it's worth the wait. Carissa, thanks so much for calling in. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Oh, wow. This looks so good. Mama DS _ Newport Beach. That's Mama D's in Newport Beach on Newport Ave. Wow. That pink sauce. I've done a pink sauce a couple of times, but it's not my specialty. I want to try that. You know what else I want? I want to know a place that does really good gnocchi. I love me some gnocchi. Like with butternut squash and sage. There used to be a gnocchi recipe I did with sage. I got to look that one up. It was really good. But we're talking pasta restaurants, pasta recipes. If you'd like to contribute, you can do so at 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222 on your favorite pasta places in Southern California, your favorite pasta recipes. Let's go to James in Azusa. James, hello.
Hello, Randy. Yeah, I couldn't help but listen to your bolognese sauce. You might be overlooking something you're probably familiar with already is polenta.
Oh, I love me some polenta.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's simple. As you know, simple is the best. And I use the Bob's Red Mill, and I'm having it tonight. It could be cooked alone. You could eat it alone with cheese, but it's really simple. You could read up on it. And most of the recipes on the back of the packages don't mention a tip that I got from Cook's Magazine. Maybe you're familiar with it, America's Test Kitchen. Well, they recommend adding a pinch of baking soda to help break the grains down. But I use polenta as a replacement for pasta all the time. Growing up in San Francisco with 7 kids, my mom was economical. She knew how to cook for 7 kids under the $1. So, and most of the restaurants are gone now. Even Fisherman's Wharf is all gone. But growing up there and with Italians, but polenta is it's easy, it's simple, and it's good. And it might be a good additive, something different than your Bolognese sauce.
Oh, I got to tell you, James,
Something
my favorite way to
different than
do
your pasta.
polenta. My favorite way to do polenta lately is, and we started doing this years and years and years ago. We love polenta so much.
Frying
When
it.
COVID hit, my wife bought a 20-pound box of it just to make sure we had it.
Yeah.
But I like to do sautéed mushrooms with a brown butter sauce over creamy polenta and a little bit
it
of
works.
sage in that
Yeah.
brown butter. That's a winner.
And there's a million ways you could make with it. But tonight when it cools down and molds, right? I use it as a pizza. You could top it off. You could cook it just like a pizza and brown it in the oven, and put your regular pizza sauce over it. So you can make it like a mush. You can make it like a pizza. You could refry it, and there's millions of things to go with it. But if you're making it in the pot, stirring like you're supposed to, add the baking soda. And that was a tip I got from America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Magazine. But I figured you were familiar with it anyways. But real simple, real economical.
Well, now you've got me craving it. It's going to have to go on the recipe list this week. James, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, Randy. All right. Randy. Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Let's go to Marcelo in San Juan Capistrano. Marcelo, hello.
Hey, Randy. Love your show. Best gnocchis are at Villa Roma in Laguna Hills. It's an Argentine Italian restaurant.
Oh, I'm looking at the website right now. I love a good gnocchi. We'll do a sweet potato gnocchi with like a brown butter sage sauce, but it takes so long to make it. It is so much work. That's where you really want a professional in there.
Yeah. I'm from Argentina. My mom from Argentina, so she would hand make it, and Villa Roma is the closest thing I could find to that. And I'm also a member of Foxen Winery.
Oh, that's great. I love Foxen.
I love the Shack. I love the Shack, and I've had the Grosso. It's very good.
It is my favorite. They also do the Volpino, which is Sangiovese and Merlot, and that's good in other situations, but that Guillermo Grosso, that is my favorite go-to Italian wine right now.
And if you're down in Los Olivos, Epiphany also has a really good Sangiovese. You should try that one.
Oh, I love Epiphany. That they have a great outdoor tasting room. I'm going to have to check that out. Marcelo, thanks so much for the call. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thank you. You too.
It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Villa Roma in the Laguna Hills area is Villa Roma Rest on Instagram. Villa Roma Rest on Instagram. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Alice writes in, one of her favorite places is in Pasadena on Fair Oaks, Gales. It looks really, really, really great. And they're on Instagram at, I know I put it up here somewhere. They are on Instagram at Gales Restaurant, Gales, and they look like they have some really great pasta in the Pasadena area. And then she gave me one more as well, another place in Altadena, and that is Pistachio and Mandarola. Ooh, a little gelato place. That sounds really, really, really great. That place is called, I'm going to butcher this, Bulganari Gelato, Bulgarini Gelato, and that is in Altadena. Let's go to Ed in Woodland Hills. Ed, hello.
Well, hello. Good evening, Randy. I don't have I know plenty of Italian restaurants, but I have a question for you. Do you know anybody that's eaten at Colombo's restaurant in Eagle Rock? They advertise on your radio station.
I didn't even know that they did. Columbo's and Eagle Rock. I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's on Colorado Boulevard. You had a lady earlier that called in and mentioned another Italian restaurant on Colorado Boulevard, but they've been advertising for a long time on KABC. But I haven't met anybody in the San Fernando Valley that's gone there and eaten there. It's just been around since the 50s.
I'm looking at the pictures right now. It looks pretty darn good, I'll tell you that. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse.
Yeah, I just have never met anybody that's eaten there. I'm just curious because you venture around. I'm just curious if you've ever eaten there because they advertise on your station.
Well, I'm going to have to check them out. I am not in Eagle Rock often, but I'm looking at their menu right now, and it looks pretty
I'm
darn
not
good.
either. I used to go to Los Feliz to go to the Tam O'Shanter.
Oh, well, there's a classic right there. Ed, have a great weekend, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the call. I didn't know that. So I got so many calls, I didn't even get a chance to get to some of my other favorites, whether it's tuna puttanesca, which then I'll save the puttanesca sauce and do sausage puttanesca. I love seared tuna on a puttanesca. It's actually one of my father-in-law's favorite recipes, and they stopped doing it at this Italian restaurant in Santa Fe, so that's when I learned how to make it. Salmon pesto is a mainstay in our house. We do that all the time. Halibut piccata, that is a really fun one. I told you about that butternut squash feta pasta. And eggplant parm. I don't even do breading. I just take the eggplants and I slice them. I put some fresh mozzarella in the middle, make a nice tomato basil sauce. Oh, that one is a winner. I could go all day. I love me my pastas. Thanks so much for all the recommendations, everybody. I got a whole list now. We'll always do this again. Thanks so much for listening. These Happy Hour Friday shows are so much fun. Y'all have earned it. It's time for a great weekend. Go enjoy yourselves. We're here every single weekday from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter most. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.